today's class, we will discuss another important chapter of biology, that is microorganisms. Microorganisms, a friend or foe. Okay, so that is a chapter we are going to discuss in today's class. So we know that biology subject deals with study of living organisms. So when we say living organisms, visible forms of life or plants and animals. That means we are capable of seeing plants and animals. There is another group of organisms which are also included in, that is which are also included in biology. That is, they are also considered as living organisms. But that group of organisms, they were discovered only after the invention of, that is, microscope. So with the help of microscope only, it is possible to observe those organisms. So such organisms, they are called as microorganisms or simply microbes. So when we say that is biology, it includes the study of, that is, microorganisms also. So what are microorganisms? Organisms which cannot be seen with naked eye but can be seen with the help of microscope. They are called as microorganisms. For example, suppose if you keep a slice of bread exposed to moist air, after some days you can see the formation of, that is, grey patches. And if you take that grey patch and when it is observed under magnifying lens, you can see some rounded structures. And those rounded structures, they are nothing but fungus. Growth of fungus happens on the slice of bread if it is kept exposed for some days. But the fungus, that is individual species, you cannot see with naked eye, but they can be observed by using a magnified glass. Similarly, take that is some pinch of soil, that is soil, add water and take a drop of that water, and when it is observed under microscope on a watch glass or the slide, you can see the movement of tiny organisms. Similarly, if you take pond water, which is fresh water, and put that drop of water on a slide, and when it is observed under microscope, you can see the movement of tiny organisms. See, those tiny organisms which are moving, they are nothing but microorganisms. All of them are not called as microorganisms, but many of them are included as microorganisms. Okay, so what are microorganisms or microbes? Organisms which cannot be seen with naked eye but can be observed by using microscope. They are called as microorganisms. And microorganisms, they are classified into 4 major groups. One is bacteria, protozoa, fungi, and algae. Okay. So microorganisms, they are classified into four major groups: bacteria, protozoa, fungi, and algae. See, in addition to this, there is one more group of microorganisms. They are called as viruses. Okay. Actually, viruses, they are not included in any of the five kingdoms. Okay. So they are not entirely considered as living organisms. They are actually connecting link between non-living and living organisms. See, viruses, they show life activities only when they are present inside the host cell. So that host cell, it may be cell of human beings, cell of other animals, cell of plant, or it can be a cell of bacteria, whatever it may be. So whenever it is present in host cell, it is capable of showing, that is, characteristics of living organisms. That means it actually reproduces only when it is found inside the host cell. But when it is present outside the host cell, it behaves like a non-living thing. That's why viruses, they are considered as connecting link between living and non-living things. Okay. So viruses, they are actually, that is, deadly. So many diseases, they are caused by viruses. I think you know about common cold. So all varieties of cold and cough, they arises due to, that is, different types of viruses. And similarly, flu, it is also an example for viral disease. AIDS, hepatitis, and very recently COVID-19 or corona, it is also caused by, that is, virus. Okay. So viruses, they are another important group of microorganisms, but they are studied separately. They are not included in any of the five kingdom classification. So in five kingdom classification, all living organisms, they are actually grouped based on characteristic features. But viruses, they are not included in that five kingdom classification. I think you know about five kingdom classification: kingdom Monera, kingdom Protista, kingdom Fungi, then plant kingdom, animal kingdom. So all different varieties of life forms, based on characteristic features, they are classified into those five kingdoms. But viruses, they are not included in that. The main reason is viruses, they show the characteristic features of both living and non-living things. That is the reason why they are studied separately. But when we consider, that is, viruses like other microorganisms, that is, we need microscope. We need actually a powerful microscope to see viruses. Only with the help of electron microscope it is possible to see viruses. They are extremely smaller in size. Okay. So that is another group of microorganisms. So here in this chapter we will discuss about, that is, the five groups of microorganisms. So the chapter name is Microorganisms, a friend or foe. Foe means enemy. See, whenever we say the word microorganisms, suddenly what comes to our mind? They cause different diseases. So always we think that microorganisms, they are enemy to us, but it is not like that. There are many microorganisms which are useful to us. So in this chapter actually we will be studying, that is, both friendly microorganisms as well as harmful microorganisms. But before that, first let us know what is the habitat of microorganisms. So where actually we can find microorganisms, that is, place of living. Place of living is nothing but habitat. See, microbes, they are cosmopolitan in distribution. Cosmopolitan in distribution. So what is the meaning of cosmopolitan in distribution? That means they are found everywhere. So you cannot name a place where microorganisms cannot survive. In the ice cold region, they are capable of survival. In hot springs, they are capable of survival. Similarly, in the body of living organisms, plants, animals and human beings, they are capable of survival. In desert region, microorganisms are present. That means they are cosmopolitan in distribution. They are found in, that means they are found everywhere. So in all places we can expect the presence of microorganisms, from very cold region to very hot region. Similarly, from desert to vegetation. Similarly, inside the living organisms, microorganisms are present. So as we already discussed that some microorganisms, they are useful to us, whereas some microorganisms, they are harmful. First, let us learn about the microorganisms that are useful to us. That is about friendly microbes. So friendly microbes are nothing but microbes which are useful to us. Understand? So how actually microorganisms are useful to us? Yes, in many ways microorganisms are useful. First point, where actually microbes are used. I think all of you are familiar with curd. Okay, so preparation of curd. Similarly, preparation of bread and cakes, that is in bakeries. See, we know that milk changes into curd. So milk changes into curd, that is because of a bacteria. So a bacteria is responsible for the change of milk into curd. What is that bacteria? That bacteria is called lactobacillus. So lactobacillus bacteria, it is found in curd, and which is responsible for changing the entire milk into curd. So you might have seen that your mother will add a small portion of curd to the milk, and overnight, that is in the morning, if you observe, the entire milk changes into curd. How that happens? That is because of multiplication of bacteria. So the bacteria which is present in curd, it is called lactobacillus. Bacillus means rod shaped bacteria. Bacteria, they have different shapes. spherical shaped bacteria, rod shaped bacteria, spiral shaped bacteria. So rod shaped bacteria, it is called as bacillus. Okay. Similarly, in the preparation of bread and cakes, that is in bakeries. In bakeries, that is a microbe will be used, and that microbe is called yeast. Yeast is an example for protozoan. So it belongs to the group protozoa. Okay. So yeast is a unicellular protozoan. So yeast, it undergoes multiplication and it releases carbon dioxide. Okay. And that carbon dioxide which is produced is responsible for the rising up of dough. So bread or cake, it becomes soft. That is because of the action of yeast, which is an example for protozoan. Okay. So in the preparation of curd, a microorganism is used, that is a bacterium, and that bacterium is lactobacillus. Similarly, in the preparation of bread or cake, yeast is used. Okay. So that is one important that is use of microorganisms, useful microorganisms. Similarly, microorganisms, they are used in the preparation of alcohol, wine and vinegar. Okay. So from ancient time, that is the method of preparation of alcohol, it was known to, that is, people. So if you take Indian that is medical system, which is called as Ayurvedic system. So in Ayurvedic system, that is, plant extracts are given as medicines. So in order to dissolve those plant extracts, alcohol was used. So people, they were knowing how to prepare alcohol, that is, long back. So that alcohol, it is actually prepared by the action of microorganisms. See, the process of preparing, that is, alcohol from sugar, normally from sugar, that is, alcohol is prepared. Okay. So sugar is converted into alcohol by the action of a microorganism, and the microorganism used is yeast again. Okay. So yeast is capable of converting sugar into, that is, alcohol, and alcohol is mainly used for making alcoholic beverages and similarly to prepare some medicines. So alcohol, it is an important chemical which is used for many purposes. See, this process of converting sugar into alcohol, it is called as fermentation. Okay, very important. So for fermentation process, the microorganism used is yeast. Similarly, grapes or, that is, other fruits, they will be converted into wine. So wine is also a form of alcohol. Okay. So there also, that is, the process of fermentation takes place, and there the microorganism used is yeast. So yeast is responsible for the conversion of sugar present in grapes to alcohol. See, yeast, it has the capacity to multiply in, that is, acidic medium. So that multiplication of yeast, it is a single celled organism. So yeast multiplies through a process called budding. Bacteria multiplies through a process called binary fission. single bacterium becomes 2 bacteria, that is just in 20 minutes. In the same way, yeast, it multiplies through a method called asexual reproduction, that is budding. And once the multiplication of yeast takes place, that is the sugar present in grapes will be get converted into, that is wine, which is a form of alcohol. And similarly, vinegar. Vinegar is nothing but acetic acid. So you know that vinegar, it is used as a food preservative, that is for storing pickles, and similarly for preparing many food items, vinegar will be used. So dilute acetic acid is called vinegar, and that vinegar, it is also produced by the action of microorganisms. So the preparation of alcohol, wine and vinegar, that is microorganisms are used. Okay, so that is another use. Similarly, microorganisms, they are used to prepare, that is medicines. So in the field of medicines, microorganisms, they play a very important role. I think you have heard about the medicines called antibiotics. So whenever we fall ill and when we go to doctor, so he gives a dosage of antibiotics. So what are antibiotics? Antibiotics are the chemicals which kills or stops the growth of microbes. Okay, which kills or stops the growth of disease causing microorganisms, and as a result we will be get cured. So most famous antibiotic, it is penicillin. Okay, Alexander Fleming, he actually, that is, prepared penicillin for the first time and he got Nobel Prize for that. Okay, so penicillin, it is actually prepared from a fungus, Penicillium notatum. So from that penicillin is prepared, and which is capable of destroying disease causing microorganisms. So I think many of you have taken penicillin injection. So penicillin, it is an antibiotic which is actually used to kill, that is disease causing microorganisms. And nowadays we use different antibiotics. Examples: streptomycin, erythromycin, tetracycline. All these are examples for, that is, antibiotics. Okay, so antibiotics, they are nothing but microorganisms. Okay, so from microorganisms, that is, these chemicals are prepared and they are injected into our body, and which are capable of destroying disease causing microorganisms. Disease causing microorganisms, they are called as pathogens. Okay, so how actually the entire process works? See, you might have, that is, heard about vaccine. I think many of you have taken, that is, different vaccines. So as soon as a child gets birth, so from birth up to almost 5 years, different varieties of vaccines will be given. For example, polio vaccine, BCG vaccine, hepatitis vaccine. So there are different vaccines will be given. So what is actually a vaccine? See, vaccine is nothing but a dead or weakened microorganisms that will be injected into our body in small quantity. See, whenever that is dead or weakened microorganisms, when they are injected into our body, so our body has an immune system and it produces antibodies. So antibodies, they are capable of fighting against invaded microorganisms. And those antibodies which are produced in the blood, they remember how to fight against such microbes if they enter once again. Okay. So once you get a vaccine, your body develops a particular kind of antibodies which are capable of fighting against the same microorganisms which can enter later, and as a result you will be not suffering from a particular disease which can be caused by microorganisms. See, that is how the process of vaccine works. So polio vaccine, then smallpox vaccine. The first vaccine, it was actually prepared by Edward Jenner. Edward Jenner, he prepared vaccine for smallpox. Now smallpox has been eradicated. Polio also has been eradicated. There are no cases of smallpox or polio nowadays in India. The reason is by vaccination. So first vaccine was actually prepared by Edward Jenner for smallpox, which is a viral disease. So today we have many vaccines. So in TV and newspapers nowadays you will be studying or seeing about vaccine for coronavirus, that is COVID-19. So scientists, they are trying hard to prepare the vaccine for that is COVID-19. So once vaccine is prepared and all people, if they are get vaccinated, then there will be no cases of coronavirus, that is COVID-19. So this is how the vaccine works, and vaccine actually contains microorganisms only, but those microorganisms, they are either weakened or dead microbes. So when they are injected into the body in small amount, our body responds to those microbes and it produces antibodies, and those antibodies, they remain in our body for a long time. Whenever the same microorganism, when it enters into our body, so these antibodies, they destroy those microbes, and as a result we don't get that disease. So that is how the vaccine works. So in the field of medicine, to prepare antibiotics and vaccines, microorganisms are used. So that is also another important point with respect to useful microorganisms. And then microorganisms, they also help in cleaning up environment. Okay. See, you know that living organisms, when they die, whether it is a plant, animal or human beings, what happens to the body of that living organism? It will be get decomposed, and that decomposition of the dead living organisms, it actually happens with the help of microorganisms. See, such microorganisms which are responsible for that is decomposition of dead organisms. Actually, it is done by a group of bacteria which are called as saprophytic bacteria. So bacteria, some group of bacteria, they are called as saprophytic bacteria. They helps in, that is, decomposition of the dead and decaying organisms. Okay, just imagine what would have been happened if there were no saprophytic bacteria. So if any plant or animal or human being, if it dies, the body remains in the environment for a long time and there will be no place for others to live at all. So the entire earth will be covered by, that is, dead plants, animals and human beings. But that's not happening. That is because of microorganisms, that is saprophytic bacteria. So saprophytic bacteria, they helps in, that is, cleaning up the environment. And in addition to this, they also helps in maintaining soil fertility. I think you might have studied about nitrogen fixing bacteria. So nitrogen fixing bacteria. So in the soil, a group of bacteria are there which are capable of converting proteins that are present in the dead bodies of animals and also excreta of animals. So nitrogenous compounds, complex nitrogenous compounds which are found in dead and decaying organisms, it will be get converted into, that is, simple compounds of nitrogen which can be absorbed by plants, and that happens with the help of a group of bacteria which are called as nitrogen fixing bacteria. And similarly, blue-green algae, that is also a group of microorganisms which is capable of nitrogen fixation in the soil. Okay, so they also helps in maintaining soil fertility. So these are all the examples for microorganisms which are useful to us. In the same way, there are many microorganisms which are harmful to us. Let us know about, that is, harmful microorganisms. So harmful microbes are nothing but microorganisms which are capable of causing different diseases. See, disease causing microorganisms, they are called as pathogens. Okay, so what are pathogens? Pathogens are nothing but disease causing microorganisms, and these pathogens, they cause diseases in human beings, then in other animals and plants. So pathogens are, that is, microorganisms, they can cause diseases in human beings. Similarly, they can cause diseases in other animals. Similarly, they are responsible for causing certain plant diseases also. So in human beings, that is, number of diseases, they are actually caused by microorganisms. Okay, and see, diseases which are caused in human beings by microbes, they are of two types. Some diseases, they are actually transmitted from infected person to healthy person through different media like air, water, food, insects, animals, physical contact. So like this they will be transmitted from one person to another person. Such diseases they are called as communicable diseases. Okay. So what are communicable diseases? Diseases which are transmitted from infected person to healthy person through different media. They are called as communicable diseases. Similarly, there are some diseases which are caused by microbes, but they are not transmitted from one person to another person. Such diseases they are called as non-communicable diseases. So here we will concentrate on that is communicable diseases. So which are the examples for communicable diseases? I think you know about TB, tuberculosis, which is a bacterial disease. Similarly, cholera, which is also a bacterial disease. Typhoid, which is also an example for bacterial disease. So TB, cholera, typhoid, they are all caused by that is bacteria, bacterial diseases. See, TB, it is actually a bacterial disease which can transmit from infected person to healthy person, that is through air. So diseases which actually transmitted through air, they are called as airborne diseases. So TB is an example for airborne diseases. Medium is air. Similarly, cholera and typhoid, they are actually caused due to a bacteria, but they will be transmitting from one person to another person, that is through water or food. Okay. So either water or food is the media for the transmission of diseases like cholera and that is typhoid. Okay. So they are examples for bacterial diseases. Similarly, measles, then smallpox, then common cold, polio, AIDS. All these are viral diseases. That means they are caused due to that is virus. So smallpox, measles, common cold, polio, then AIDS, hepatitis. All of them are caused by that is viruses. So remember the diseases which are caused by bacteria and diseases which are caused by virus. And similarly, one more important that is point you have to remember related to disease causing microbes, that is malaria. So malaria, it is an example for disease which is caused by a protozoan. So which are the examples for protozoans? So you know that amoeba is an example for protozoan. Euglena is an example for protozoan. Okay, so you are familiar with those examples. And which are not deadly. Amoeba, euglena, they do not cause any that is disease. But it is a disease caused by protozoa. Examples for protozoa: amoeba, euglena, paramecium. But here we are talking about a protozoa which is responsible for causing, that is, a disease. So malaria, it is caused by Plasmodium. So which is a protozoan. But it is transmitted from infected person to healthy person through an insect. So which is that insect? That insect is female Anopheles mosquito. So female Anopheles mosquito is the carrier of malaria from infected person to healthy person. Okay. So such carriers, they are called as vector. So here, which is the vector for malaria? It is a mosquito, and in particular female Anopheles mosquito. Similarly, one more disease, dengue, which is caused by, that is, a virus. It is a viral disease and it is transmitted from infected person to healthy person. Female Aedes mosquito. So here, that is medium of transmission. It is insect. Okay. So some diseases, they are transmitted through air. Some diseases are transmitted through water. Some diseases are transmitted through food. And some diseases, they are transmitted through, that is, insects. Okay. And similarly, some diseases, they are transmitted from one person to another person through physical contact. So malaria vector is female Anopheles mosquito. Dengue vector is female, that is, Aedes mosquito. And another common vector which is responsible for carrying number of diseases from infected person to healthy person, it is housefly, Nona. So housefly is another common vector which can carry hundreds of diseases from, that is, one person to another person. So these are some important, that is, diseases you have to remember related to communicable diseases. Okay. So communicable diseases, that is, there are viral diseases, there are bacterial diseases, and similarly there are diseases caused by protozoans. Okay. See, these are examples for diseases which are caused by microorganisms in human beings. Similarly, some diseases, they are caused in animals also, that is, other animals. So which are the examples? I think you might have heard about anthrax. So anthrax, it is a deadly disease which is caused in cattle, and from cattle it can be transmitted to human beings also. Suppose if we drink the milk from a cow which is suffering from anthrax, we may also get, that is, anthrax. But originally it is an animal disease, okay, which is caused by microorganism. And similarly, another important animal disease which is caused by microbe, it is called foot and mouth disease. Okay. So anthrax and foot and mouth disease, they are the examples for diseases which are caused by microorganisms in animals. Again, foot and mouth disease, it is also found in, that is, cattle. Okay. And there are some microorganisms which can cause diseases in plants. So number of diseases, they are caused by microorganisms to crop plants especially. So when crop plants, when they suffer from those diseases, what happens? Generally, yield decreases. So you cannot expect, that is the photosynthetic activity to maximum extent, and as a result yield will be less. So which are the examples for diseases that are caused by microorganisms in plants? One is citrus canker, citrus plants. So citrus canker, it is commonly found in citrus plants. And similarly, another example is rust of wheat. And third example is yellow vine. So this is bacterial disease, this is viral disease, and this is disease caused by, this is caused by fungi, and this is viral disease. Okay, so citrus canker, rust of wheat, and yellow vine, they are also, that is caused by different microorganisms in plants. So remember the examples for diseases. And then very important is, we know that whenever diseases are caused by microorganisms in crop plants, that is yield decreases, and which directly affects the production of food. So very important is, the food which is produced, it must be stored and it must be utilized throughout the year. But during the storage of food, what happens? There will be, that means the stored food, it will be that is spoiled by different microorganisms, and when we consume such food, we may get, that is different diseases, vomiting, loose motion, then diarrhea, sometimes death. These can happen by consuming food which is spoiled by microorganisms. So very important is, whatever the food that is produced, it must be stored carefully and it must be distributed, that is throughout the year. Okay, or in home, if we are storing the food, care must be taken that it will not be get spoiled. Okay, so about food we will learn some important concepts, that is mainly about food poisoning. So food poisoning normally happens when we consume food which is spoiled by microorganisms. So what is actually the spoilage of food? See, when microorganisms, when they are present in a particular food, they produce toxic chemicals. So when those toxic chemicals, when they are consumed along with the food, what may happen? Food poisoning can happen, and as a result, I said, we may suffer from different types of symptoms. So normal symptoms of food poisoning: vomiting, loose motion, diarrhea, and sometimes it can lead to death also. That's why care should be taken to, that is, store the food properly. Okay, see, some that is varieties of food, they can be stored for only short time. Similarly, there are some varieties of food which can be stored for long time by using different methods. So what are the methods that we use for storing food. One is chemical method. So in chemical method, that is different chemicals are used. For example, salt is used. You know that fish, meat, they are actually stored without spoilage by using salt. Okay, salt and ice they use. So salting is one common technique that can be used for storing, that is, many food items, especially meat and fish. Similarly, another important chemical which can be used, it is sugar, jam, jellies, then some sweets. They can be stored, that is, without spoilage by using sugar. And similarly, oil. Okay, so by, that is, smearing oil on a particular food item, it can be stored for long time. So oil and vinegar, they are used in storing, that is, pickles and other that is, vegetables and fruits. And similarly, second important method, hot and cold method. Okay, see, when food is boiled, normally microorganisms, they will die. So many times, suppose if we are not feeling well, so doctor suggests us to drink boiled and cooled water. So why actually that is done? On boiling water, what happens? Microbes, they die, and as a result, it will not cause any harm. Similarly, we should heat, that means we should actually eat, that is, hot food. Not too hot food, but is mild hot food. What is the reason? So on heating the food items, that is, microbes will die. Okay, so that is one technique. Similarly, we can keep required food items in freezers, and in freezers microbial activity will be less, or there will be no microbial activity at all. That's why in refrigerators, in fridges, vegetables, fruits and food items, milk, fish or meat which are kept, they remain fresh for long time. Okay, so hot and cold method, that is also one method for food preservation. And then another important is about heating milk. So normally before using milk, what actually is done? Heat will be boiled and then it is cooled and used for different purposes. So why actually it is done, and who actually showed that method to preserve milk for a long time? It is a scientist called Louis Pasteur. So in milk diaries, large scale milk, it is subjected to pasteurization. Very important. In our home also we do that, but in dairies, large scale milk, it is subjected to a process called pasteurization, which was shown by Louis Pasteur. So what is pasteurization? Heating milk to a temperature of 70 degrees Celsius and suddenly cooling. So when it is done, all microbes which are present in milk, they die, and as a result, milk can be stored for, that is, longer time. Okay, so that is one method. And similarly, that is by using airtight containers. By using airtight containers, it is possible to, that is, preserve food. Nowadays, that is, vegetables, fruits, they will be packed, that is in bags, there is no air at all. Vacuum packing it is called as. So when vacuum packing is done, what happens? That is, that item can be preserved for long time. Okay. So these are some common methods which can be used for preserving the food items. And the last concept in this chapter, it is about one important biogeochemical cycle which is called as nitrogen cycle. I think in lower classes you have studied about water cycle. So what is water cycle? So water which is present on the earth's surface in different sources. So it goes to atmosphere and again it comes back and fills the water sources which are present. So that process of movement of a required substance from reservoir pool to nutrient pool and back to reservoir pool, that is what is known as biogeochemical cycle. So very important is nitrogen cycle. So what is nitrogen cycle? Nitrogen cycle is nothing but movement of nitrogen, which is very essential for plants and animals. So growth and development of the body takes place with the help of nitrogen only. Proteins contain nitrogen, which are very much essential for both plants and animals. Okay. So how the movement of nitrogen takes place, that is from reservoir pool to exchange pool and back to reservoir pool, that you have to understand. So it is an example for biogeochemical cycle. And we know that 78% of nitrogen of nitrogen it is present in atmosphere, atmospheric nitrogen, and that atmospheric nitrogen it will be converted into compounds of nitrogen by lightning. So during lightning process, that is nitrogen combines with hydrogen or other gases, oxygen, and as a result, that is compounds of nitrogen will be formed, and those compounds of nitrogen they reaches the soil. And similarly, atmospheric nitrogen which is present, it will be directly absorbed by bacteria and blue-green algae, which are called as nitrogen fixing, that is microbes. Rhizobium, which is found in leguminous plants, which is capable of absorbing nitrogen directly from the atmosphere. So bacteria and blue-green algae, they are actually capable of fixing nitrogen directly into the soil. Similarly, there are some groups of soil bacteria. They are capable of converting, that is complex nitrogenous compounds which are found in the living organisms body or the excrete of living organisms into compounds of nitrogen. So this nitrogen which is present in the soil, it will be used by plants for protein synthesis, and from plants animals they get the required nitrogen, and when animals die, . when animals die and their excrete will be converted into compounds of nitrogen by the action of soil bacteria. So this is how the movement of nitrogen takes place, and whatever the excess of nitrogen which is present in the soil, it goes back to atmosphere by the action of denitrifying bacteria. So nitrogen fixing bacteria, denitrifying bacteria. Denitrifying bacteria converts the compounds of nitrogen into atmospheric nitrogen, whereas nitrifying bacteria, they converts, that is, the nitrogen which is present in the atmosphere or the complex forms of nitrogen into simple forms of, that is, nitrogen, which can be used by plants for protein synthesis. See, this is how the movement of nitrogen takes place from the reservoir pool to exchange pool and back to reservoir pool. So this process, it is known as nitrogen cycle. Okay, and here for this nitrogen cycle, very important is certain microbes are responsible. Okay, so which are the microbes that are responsible for, that is, nitrogen cycle? That is bacteria, rhizobium bacteria, then blue-green algae, and similarly some soil bacteria. They are all responsible to carry out nitrogen cycle. Suppose if nitrogen cycle will not happen, then definitely we can say that life would have not been existed. Okay, so that is the importance of, that is, microorganisms in nitrogen cycle. So with this we have covered almost all the points related to microorganisms, a friend or foe. Thank you.